quaint community located in Lincoln County in Tennessee. It has a population of only 627 and is situated about 70 miles west of Chattanooga. Beginning back in 1976, a hairy, bipedal creature was said to stalk the forest around Flintville, attacking cars, slaughtering livestock, attempting to abduct children, and generally terrifying anyone unlucky enough to cross its path. It all began in April 1976 when a frantic woman called the Flintville police to tell them that a giant hairy monster had charged out of the forest towards her car. It snapped off her radio antenna and hopped up onto the roof, where it jumped up and down wildly for several minutes. It eventually ran off into the forest. No doubt, had this woman not been locked inside of her car, tucked down onto the floorboard, she would most likely have become yet another statistic. Surprisingly, her story made national news, and before long other citizens came forward to tell of their own run-in with this aggressive hairy beast. Two teenagers out for a walk on the night of April 23, 1976, observed a strange bipedal creature as it wandered down a roadside and up an embankment leading into the woods. Another witness claimed that he encountered a 7-foot-tall hairy monster which chased him through the woods, howling and screeching at him like an ape. Ned Sinclair, a local area farmer, also encountered the creature on his property as it was busy butchering chickens. He came forward to tell of his sighting. He had lost count of how many of his livestock had been killed or had gone missing due to this creature. Sinclair further attempted to caution the public with regards to the possible danger this creature posed to the public at large. He had seen the creature and he knew it was dangerous. Quote, "That thing's so big it could easily hurt somebody," unquote. Oddly, Sinclair's prophetic warning nearly proved true. On April 26, 1976, only 3 days after the two teenagers' encounter on that lonely road, Jenny Robertson was standing in her backyard with her 4-year-old son Gary, who was playing with some toys. Jenny heard a weird noise followed by a terrible odor that permeated the air. She likened it to a skunk or dead rats. She spun around and watched as a huge ape-like creature charged across the yard toward her house. Quote, "I turned and there was this huge black thing a few feet from Gary and me. It was a horrible hairy monster with glowing red eyes. I say that it was at least 7 feet tall and weighed about 350 to 400 pounds and seemed to be all covered with hair. It reached out its long hairy arms towards Gary and came within a few inches of him," unquote. Acting fast, the terrified mother snatched him up and rushed him inside the house and locked the doors. Her husband Melvin was sitting at the kitchen table. He ran to find out what was going on and observed something rushing into the nearby forest. Quote, "I ran to the back door and saw a big black shape disappearing into the woods," unquote. Minutes after reporting the incident to the local police, a 6-man group made up of lawmen and hunters descended on her property armed with shotguns and rifles. There was Deputy Sheriff Homer Davis, Melvin Robertson, Stan Moore, and 3 others. They resolved to track down and kill the creature. Utilizing flashlights and spotlights, the men continued to search the woods on the outskirts of town late into the evening. They found huge footprint tracks in soft mud. Eventually they managed to catch up with the creature not far from the Robertsons' property. That's when things got kind of strange. It just stood there looking at us. We all started shooting at it and emptied our guns, but it didn't go down, recalled Moore of nearby Fayetteville. Following the shower of bullets, they heard the creature belt out an unearthly scream. The creature began pelting the men with rocks. Despite having been shot multiple times, the beast eventually turned and ran off into the woods. The sudden turn of events left the men deeply disturbed, because how was it possible? Certainly nothing living could sustain that many bullet wounds and still manage to run away. The next day the hunters found more 16-inch prints, as well as hair, blood, and mucus. The hair was scientifically analyzed but could not be identified. Strangely enough, the attacks kept happening. A plumber reported that his truck's windshield was smashed by a strange creature. As well, a frightened housewife told of how a black, hairy creature chased her inside her house and beat on the door. In the fall of 1987, on a dark, moonless night, a 17-year-old man driving west on the out-of-the-way Teal Hollow Road between Flintville and Fayetteville was rushing to get home before his 11:30 curfew. He had left his girlfriend's house a little late, and he was in a hurry to get home. Teal Hollow Road was a wooded area with few houses and even fewer police, so he was speeding down the long straightaway. Deer were abundant, so he was scanning the sides of the road as he drove, looking for eyeshine from deer in case one ran out in front of his car. Soon the young man observed what he thought was a trash bag or stump sitting in the creek that ran parallel to the road. He slowed down as he approached it. When he got closer, he was still unsure of what it was. He assumed that maybe it was a deer or a cow. Then he saw it. He saw a figure on the side of the road with a hunched back, like someone with a bad posture. Quote, I thought it was a deer or a cow at first, so I slowed down. As I got closer to it, it stood up. As I passed it, I was still going fast, about 55 or 60. I then thought it was a person who had crashed their car, so I hit my brakes. By this time, I was past it. I stopped in the road about 100 to 200 yards past it. When I put the car in reverse to back up, I could see that it had walked into the road behind me. I probably got to within 25 to 30 yards of it when I realized it was much bigger than a person. It was dark, so I do not have a great description. It scared me. I threw the car in drive and floored it. I drove like a bat out of heck until I got to Highway 64. When I got home, I was still shaking and still had tears in my eyes. I do not know what I saw, but it was big, looked to be 6.5 to 7 feet, and almost half the width of my car, unquote. The man was driving a 68 Camaro. The figure was about even with the height of his car while still in the creek. With the figure being observed in the rearview mirror, it walked out of the creek and into the road. For about 20 to 30 seconds, he sat observing the creature. The man estimated the figure was 6.5 to 7 feet tall and wide at the shoulders and upper body. He guessed between 3 or 4 feet, probably closer to 3 feet. The neck was not visible like a human's. He threw the car into reverse and then drive, squealing his tires as he sped off. He saw the creature turn in the direction of the creek and woods, but did not notice if it walked or ran. BFRO investigator M.B. Pope looked into the case. He noted that the area of the sighting is a shortcut off the main road, with the nearest home about 5 miles away. There are homes on the road, but not near the sighting area. The road is, or was at the time, a small blacktop road with no lane dividers or stripes on the surface. There are woods on both sides of the road for miles. Further, Pope noted that the witness repeated several times that what he saw was not a deer, a cow, or a bear. It took him several years before he ventured down that road again, and even to this day, he will not travel that road at night. Quote, 20 years have passed and I will still not drive that road anytime close to dark. I get cold chills every time I think about what happened. It scared the heck out of me, whatever it was, unquote. 2 years later, in 1989, a church pastor complained that something had destroyed the windshield and antenna of his car. That same week, a group of teens reported a large man-like ape loping across the field at the edge of town. Strangely, in 1993, the sightings seemed to cease. E. Randall Floyd of the Augusta Chronicle asked Jenny Robertson if she believed the creature was gone for good. I doubt it. It's probably just gone into hiding for a while. And she may have been right. On July 16, 2003, another creature arrived to terrify a family living just a few miles outside of Flintville. It was between 10:30 and 11:30, and it was a warm summer night. The sky was clear. Quote, my niece went out to roll the windows up on my daughter's car when she heard something hollering at her. She looked toward a field next to the house and then seen something white standing there. It kept making the noise and spooked her, so she ran back in the house to tell us. Shortly after this, our dog started barking. My daughter's boyfriend took a flashlight out next to the fence to see if he could see anything. He ran in the house to get the gun because he heard some movement. When he returned to the fence, he shined the flashlight towards the woods again. What he saw stunned him for a few seconds. He said it was a huge white furry creature. He fired the gun and the creature stumbled and took off running. While all this was taking place, my daughter and niece were standing on the porch and witnessed the whole thing. They seen enough of the creature to describe it as being a huge white furry creature on 2 feet instead of 4. They also heard the low deep grunt my niece had heard earlier, unquote. The 3 witnesses could hear trees breaking as it ran off. The family were too spooked to chase after it or go looking for tracks or hair. BFRO investigator Tony Gerard investigated the incident. Several days before the incident, the family had smelled a very unpleasant odor. They assumed it was an animal carcass, but could not find the source of the smell. He further learned that the daughter had observed the creature about 30 minutes after the niece had gone outside and was approximately 35 feet from the creature. Her boyfriend at the time was much closer. She determined the creature was over 6 feet tall, with a very broad body, especially in the shoulders. The creature's face was between a monkey and a human in appearance, and its hair was long and coarse like a golden retriever, and white in color, like an old person's hair. The creature was standing on 2 legs and ran away on 2 legs like a human. According to the mother, a woman had once related to her that there had been a sighting in the area around her property, and that wasn't the only thing. Quote, about 7 years ago, my daughter swears she's seen a creature run across the road in her rearview mirror. About 6 years ago, we had a horse that went crazy one night. When my husband checked it out, our fence was broken down with long white hairs stuck in the barbed wire, unquote. In May 1976, noted UFO investigator Brent Rains, famous for working on the Grant Stevens case, amongst many others, traveled to Flintville at the height of the Bigfoot scare. Thanks to another investigator, he would stumble across a curious detail left out of many of the sighting reports filed at the time. Quote, while I was there interviewing witnesses, I became acquainted with a cryptozoologist who had traveled down from New York to investigate the situation. Interestingly, I was told that whenever the Bigfoot-type creature appeared, that there were also small balls of phosphorescent-looking lights floating silently around the tops of pine trees. I again came across another one of those witnesses who recalled those lights just a couple of years ago, unquote. I thought it was interesting that Brent Rains had drawn a correlation between the Bigfoot sightings and the strange lights, because in Flintville, everyone knows about. Most people know that there's the Flintville lights, and I was planning on making a video about the Flintville lights, but apparently there's a there's an area in Flintville where there was a train tracks, and they're not there anymore. But apparently people see these strange lights going up and down these where these train tracks were. I thought it was interesting because you have this kind of link between UFOs or whatever these lights are and these Bigfoot creatures, because Flintville also has quite a few UFO sightings. Like I said, I was going to make a video about that at some point because I had found a large number of Flintville light stories, as well as a lot of UFO sightings in the area. And then there's also other kinds of there's even an apparent alien abduction story from Flintville. So anyways, I was going to, but maybe down the road. But I just thought it was kind of interesting that there was this that Rains drew this correlation between the Flintville lights and these Bigfoot, the Bigfoot creatures, or the Bigfoot creature that has been seen in the area. So anyways.